Now, it's looking forward to having a chat with Peter Racy, who is, shall we say, a long-time collector of all things Australian, all things intrinsically Queensland and Australian, and part of our history, from pop culture things to serious things. He's also had a lifelong devotion to keeping the memory of Expo 88 alive. But at the moment he's on a quest for something a little bit different, not related to that at all. Let's find out a little bit more about what he's searching for in our part of the world. Peter Racy, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, David, and Merry Christmas to all your listeners. And just quickly on that Expo 88, every time I speak to Rick Birch, he says one of the most enjoyable interviews he's had on radio was with your good self.
Oh, well, that's lovely. Thank you very much. Peter, tell me about the 125th anniversary project. So the collection of, you're trying to put together an inventory of all special national Australian flags that are scattered around the country in museums and historical villages. Tell me more. What are we talking about when we talk about special national Australian flags?
Well, I'll just touch on the history. Next year is the 125th. The Federation was formed in 1901. The Founding Fathers, and I don't really want to be politically incorrect, but I don't think you can call them anything else, decided that it was better to have a competition to find the national flag of Australia rather than imposing it, as almost every other country had when their constitution was brought into being. And on the 29th of April 1901, the competition was launched to find or establish a national flag. And that was launched at a time when the tariffs were being established, the High Court was being discussed, the Navy, the Army were being brought into being. There was a competition as well for what was called the Great Seal, which in actual fact was our national coat of arms. So there was really not one Australian that wasn't touched by the Federation, and therefore our flag is, was really the birth of something incredible. And there were 32,000 entries in a time when there was no internet. So everyone had to go to the trouble of, sketching out and doing a letter, doing a document. It was no easy thing to do at the end of the competition, but 32,000 people did.
That's extraordinary.
There were 5 winners. One of them was a 14-year-old boy, Ivor Evans. And so that event, I think, is really worth celebrating on the 125th anniversary, which will be the 3rd of September 2026. And as you said, I've got a lot of passionate interests, and one of them is the Australian flag. And a very good friend of mine, the national president, Mr. Alan Pidgeon, and I discussed, well, what could we do that was special? We sort of worked out that there was no national inventory, and so that's what we set about doing. And to make it really, sort of resonate at a local level, there is a flag from the Grantham floods that was presented to Julia Gillard, and that is on display at Gatton. At Stanthorpe, and on the hill behind Stanthorpe, there's that beautiful memorial.
Yes, yep.
Yep, and so on the floor of that, there was originally painted an Australian flag. On the ceiling, it's the Southern Cross. Now, in times gone past, they decided that it wasn't all that kosher to walk on the Australian flag, so it was painted over. But they are the sort of stories and leads I'm after. And just outside your broadcast footprint, or maybe just in, at Tenterfield, is the Breaker Morant flag. And that was a red ensign, as it happens, that was spread on the grave of Breaker Morant by the solicitor. But get this, around 1996 from memory, that flag and all the records of breaking rent were found at the rubbish tip at Tenterfield, and they were rescued.
Goodness.
And they've gone into a museum. So they're the sort of things that I'm trying to find, but spread throughout Australia.
What an amazing quest. So is it the case, though, where do you have in mind or on paper a list of ones that you either know or suspect are out there and you're just trying to find proof? Or in most cases, do you actually not know how many other examples, aside from the ones you've given me, are out there, and you're really dealing with the great unknown?
It's a little bit of both. Good old Dr. Google gave me about 5 or 6 leads. Personal experience gave me one in particular, which was the bombing of Darwin flag that's sitting in the Darwin War Museum, and that does look like it's been through hell, that flag. It's quite incredible. But there are another 2 bombing of Darwin flags, one of which is in the Australian War Memorial, which was at the governor, the administrator's residence. The one in Darwin was actually at the RAAF base up there. And then there's another one, believe it or not, sitting at Launceston, which was purchased at a market just after the bombing. I'm led to believe that also looks pretty well damaged, and that ended up going down to Launceston, of all places. But since launching the paper originally, which was launched with the Speaker of Federal Parliament, Milton Dick, on the 3rd of September this year, it's just been, the response has been quite incredible. And we're only now just starting to do a little bit of radio interviews to get the message out. So in Geraldton, at the Burwood Museum, which is part of the RSL over there, there is a blue ensign that was at Gallipoli and went all around the Western Front, then went into the local community over there and was part of the RSL Anzac Day services and Remembrance Day services for many, many years. There is, in Newcastle, a red ensign that was flown out the front of the Birdswood headquarters during World War I. Now, that was discovered in a box and about 8 or 9 years ago, completely and utterly dilapidated, and they got a grant, and for about $250,000 they've restored it, and now it's part of a university collection. There is a fire ravaged flag in Victoria. In Hobart, there are 3 or 4 flags in their museum that relate to the claiming of Antarctica. And in Queensland, we have, just outside again of your footprint, at the Caboolture Historical Village, a really interesting flag that was found in an attic at Victoria Park Barracks and was gifted then to the War Widows Association of America. They were based in Florida. It went all over America. The lady concerned, after she became a war, well, I meant to say war brides, and then she became a widow. She relocated back to Australia, and then that flag was gifted to the Caboolture Historical Village. So there were really some incredible stories out there, and the flag is just so loved. The recent research shows that about 70-odd%, which was up from about 60 during a very sad period of time when its support fell. And as I said, Alan and I just felt that if we had this inventory and we could flesh out all of these interesting stories, then it was going to, put the flag in good stead for another 125 years. It's an absolutely fantastic project.
And is your plan eventually, and if you just come in, by the way, my name's David Iliffe, having a chat with Peter Racy this morning. It's 9:16, and Peter, along with the help of, it was Alan, wasn't it? Alan Pigeon from the Australian Flag Association?
The National Australian Flag Association, yes. Queensland Division.
Aha, there you go. They're on a quest to create an inventory of all of the special national Australian flags scattered around Australia in museums and historical villages, and in some cases in the most unlikely of places. What do you do then? You create the inventory, but is the inventory really, as I think you're alluding to there, Peter, is it really going to be some sort of a book with not just pictures of these flags or descriptions, but the stories behind them as well?
David, you're touching on something that I hadn't really thought about at the start of the project, but it's become very apparent to me that I should have thought a little bit more about the long term. However, in saying that, I have written to the Prime Minister and Cabinet's office. I just think it's a natural for them to take on as a project because they've already got the flag protocols. They already put out releases. They, through Milton Dick, the Speaker of Federal Parliament, do an absolutely amazing event now in the Federal Parliament to honour the flag that flies above Parliament House. However, there are some other voluntary organisations that are very keen to take on the custodialship of the paper. And just to give you a little bit of an interest or insight as to just the depths of knowledge at the Australian War Memorial, because I wrote to them and flagged the project. And they wrote back and said, we can't give you an inventory of what the Australian flags are that we hold because we have 1,900 flags in total, and we estimate that we probably have 500 Australian flags, all with special stories. And so the project could be just swamped just by the Australian War Memorial, but that isn't the idea of the project. It is to identify special flags. Like, believe it or not, there are 3 Australian flags in miniature, albeit, that went to the moon. One was on the Apollo 11 flight, and that's in the National Archives with a little sample of the moon. Another one is held that went to the moon in the Australian National Museum, again with a little bit of the moon. And then the final one is held by the Whitlam Institute, and that is also one that went to the moon on the Apollo 17 flight, which was the last flight. So not only does the flag document incredibly important history of the claiming of Antarctica, it documents the real key role that Parkes played in helping the Apollo program. So that the story of the flag is extraordinarily broad.
Absolutely. I think this is quite an amazing project. I'm nearly out of time, Peter, but just quickly, if people feel they have some information that they would like to share with you that could help you in this quest, how do they get in touch with you or the project? Well,
the best way probably is go to the Facebook page, the Australian National Flag Association Queensland Division, and up there is email addresses and other contacts, or alternatively they can get to the webpage, the Australian National Flag Association Queensland Division. It's important they go to the Queensland Division, and there's an email address there, or alternatively they can email me directly, lowercase Peter Racey, RASEY, at bigpond.com. Right. I am all ears.
Fair enough. I will be interested to hear what comes out of the woodwork. Just an absolute final question, Peter. Is there one that you suspect is out there that you would love some verification on, like something that would be at the top of your wish list, so to speak, that you suspect exists, but you've currently come up empty?
Yes. From a Queensland perspective, there was a flag that was paraded at Gallipoli. It came back into the hands of Canon Garland, who was the driving force of Anzac Day, just a purely and utterly workaholic individual who drove the formation and the unification right across Australia and New Zealand of the Anzac Day protocols. And that Australian flag went into the St John Cathedral. They received the second flag, which was a British flag, Union Jack. They've managed to have that one on display continuously. The Australian flag, after a number of years of being on display, has been packed away and hasn't been sighted since. So I'm hoping that very similar to the Birdswood flag in Newcastle Cathedral, that it is eventually found in a box and hopefully, a grant can be obtained to restore it, because it will be just a bag of almost dust.
Yes, yeah, that's it. But to have it restored and put on display somewhere would be magnificent. A incredibly worthy project, Peter. I really appreciate you taking the time to have a chat about it this morning.
And David, I appreciate you giving the airtime. As always, you are a true trooper to the history of Queensland.
Thank you very much. Keep us up to date with how things go, and I'll keep an eye out on your Facebook page, Peter. But great to chat.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks so much. Peter Racy of Benarkin there. Yeah, if you reckon you can help out and you miss those contact details, give us a call. We will pass them on. It's 9:23 on ABC.